This is not just a drama. It feels more like a mouthpiece for all the thoughts people only dare to type halfway in a social media post before deleting them. We Are All Trying Here begins with Park Jung-se, a director at Go Back Film. His new movie is about to be released. This should be good news, but Jung-se does not look happy at all. When a friend hears that he is writing a new script, Jung-se grits his teeth and explains the story. In his script, there is a place called the National Stress Management Bureau. Its job is to hunt down people who spread negative energy. To preserve public order, the bureau tracks them like criminals and executes them. Today's target is Hwang Dong-man. As Dong-man is shot to death, Jung-se's mouth curls into a satisfied smile. Back in reality, that same expression of pleasure is still on Jung-se's face. So why does he hate Dong-man this much? It turns out their small film industry circle recently held a gathering of 8 people. Dong-man was one of them. As soon as he sat down, he said he did not like this food and could not eat that one. But when the dishes arrived, he ate more than anyone. For Jung-se, just seeing Dong-man is torture. But what truly drives him mad is Dong-man's mouth. When Jung-se modestly says his new film probably will not sell well, Dong-man immediately agrees with an almost cheerful expression. Jung-se gets angrier the more he thinks about it. He is a film director with 5 movies behind him. Dong-man has spent 20 years with nothing released. How could they possibly be the same? What frustrates Jung-se even more is that Dong-man never attacks directly. If Dong-man challenged him openly, Jung-se could fight back. Instead, Dong-man uses indirect sarcasm and bitter comments that dig under people's skin. Jung-se hates him so much that he imagines killing him. Meanwhile, Dong-man himself has finally woken up, though only his body is awake at first. When he sees the time, his soul seems to snap back into place. He washes quickly, dresses quickly, and hurriedly gathers the scripts scattered across the floor. While feeding his cat, he also feeds his own anxiety. He peeks through the door and sees no one outside, then carefully slips out. When he passes his landlord's door, he barely dares to breathe. But as soon as he reaches the stairs, the landlord spots him. Dong-man pretends not to hear and disappears around the corner. At this point, Dong-man is a teacher at a writing academy. The academy is not doing well, and the low income has only made his tongue sharper. He mocks a student, saying that if the student is not rich, he should stop writing stories about rich people. If you have no money, write something grounded. Only then will you have a chance. Then the student asks a brutal question. If Dong-man understands success so well, why has he never succeeded? Dong-man can only laugh awkwardly to protect his pride. At that moment, the watch on his wrist beeps. It is an emotional monitoring watch, and the red light shows the feeling inside him: unfairness. That is Dong-man's core wound. He feels talented, but unrecognized. That bitterness has turned him into a venomous speaker. No matter how good a project is, he can find something to criticize. The fact that someone like Park Jung-se has directed 5 movies while Dong-man still has nothing makes him feel even more wronged. So he constantly tears Jung-se down. The problem is that sarcasm may feel satisfying for a second, but it does not solve real life. Soon, a loan shark calls to demand payment. Dong-man can mock everyone else, but in front of loan sharks, he does not dare talk back. He obediently listens to the scolding. That day is another gathering for the 8 Club. Dong-man enters with his emotions bottled up. The room had been full of laughter, but the moment he appears, the energy dies. Everyone in this circle has released work. Some have already become well-known directors. Only Dong-man has nothing after 20 years. This time, Dong-man surprisingly does not immediately attack anyone. While the others discuss their work, he mostly eats and drinks. Someone asks what he has been doing lately. Dong-man casually answers, then launches into a long explanation about his emotion monitoring watch. He talks with great enthusiasm, but the others either stare at their phones or drift off. The only person fully engaged is Jung-se, who is glaring at him like he wants him gone. Finally, Jung-se cannot take it anymore. Someone should have gently reminded Dong-man to tone it down, but Dong-man fires back without restraint. If looks could kill, Dong-man would die 100 times under Jung-se's eyes. Jung-se leaves early, and the gathering collapses because of Dong-man. Dong-man is famous in this industry, but only for being unknown. At Choi Film, the employees are discussing him and his emotional watch. Una hears them and quietly pulls down her sleeve. She wears the same kind of watch. Una is not in a good mood either. Her boss, Choi Dong-hyun, has just scolded her. He warns that if her planning work does not improve, she should leave. When Choi hears people talking about Dongman, he uses Dongman as a negative example. Then he pointedly reminds Una that if she does not want to become useless, she needs to show real results. Una has always worked hard, but she feels stuck at a 45-degree angle in life. She cannot lie flat, but she cannot win by working harder either. Dongman's situation feels strangely similar to her own. Looking at him feels like looking at her possible future. When she chats with a friend, she admits she may have judged Dongman too harshly before. Her friend also feels sorry for him. Dongman has no idea he has become a frequent topic in other people's conversations. At home, his older brother, Hwang Jin-man, scolds him for doing nothing all day. Dongman insists he is busy thinking and developing ideas. Jin-man says he has been thinking for 20 years and is still in the same place. The brothers argue and part bitterly. The next evening, Dongman and Yoon-ah run into each other on the way home. Yoon-ah studies this legendary failed writer up and down. Dongman greets her with an awkward smile. During their small talk, Yoon-ah asks why he talks so much. Dongman says talking makes him feel more alive. Yoon-ah immediately understands. In front of others, he uses "I understand everything" to hide "I have nothing." But when he is alone at night, he collapses completely. Yoon-ah has heard him screaming late at night, so she becomes curious about what kind of stories he writes. That question makes Dongman's watch light up green. For the first time in 20 years, someone is willing to read his script. Later, at Jung-se's handprint ceremony, Dongman falls back into his old habit. He tears apart Jung-se's movie, then casually criticizes the lead actress's performance too. The people around him look embarrassed. Finally, someone asks why he has so many complaints. Dongman immediately becomes defensive. The result is that, at this event, he becomes completely isolated. Everyone else chats and laughs, while Dongman can only numb himself with alcohol. He cannot bear hearing others boast about success. He cannot bear watching them look so pleased with themselves. So he forces himself to smile and stumbles out of the hotel. In the taxi, he tries to keep the corners of his mouth raised, but the sadness in his eyes cannot be hidden. The greatest tragedy is not that other people are better than you. It is that when they are better than you, you still have a pride that refuses to surrender. And to everyone else, that pride means nothing. Their dismissive eyes make Dongman feel hopeless. He runs until he trips and falls, leaving himself bruised and scraped. The next day, he nervously visits the film company because Choi Dong-hyun has called for him. Una has read his script and recommended it to Choi. Normally, only strong scripts reach Choi's desk. Una, as a script reader and producer, decided to take the risk out of sympathy and understanding. But when Choi calls her into the room, she immediately senses danger. Choi asks her to list everything wrong with Dongman's script. Una hesitates, then does her job. She is known for giving sharp script notes, and now every sentence lands like a blade. Her face stays calm, but the comments are brutal. Dongman does not know that Una is under pressure too. He only tries to keep smiling. When Una returns to her desk, her nose starts bleeding. Whenever stress becomes too much, she bleeds like this. She had wanted to help Dongman, but the rules of the world do not bend to personal kindness. In that moment, she feels the same exhaustion, despair, and tiny, stubborn resistance that Dongman feels. Her watch turns red. After being isolated the day before, Dongman finally loses control when he hears Choi's cold mockery. He shouts and throws up. The episode closes with Dongman eating wildly, a sign that stress has crushed his sense of safety. Only by filling his stomach can he feel grounded. After leaving the company, Dongman is covered in emotional bruises. He wants to use force to ask Choi what right he has to make entertainment out of someone else's life. But violence cannot solve loneliness or despair. Late at night, Dongman calls out his own name again. The next day, Choi tells a friend that Dongman tried to attack him but fell into a table and hurt himself. That friend happens to be one of the 8 club members. Choi asks him to tell the group's leader, Park Young-soo, that Dongman should leave the club. Some members question why Choi has any right to interfere with the 8 club, but the suggestion fits exactly what Jung-se wants. Jung-se has disliked Dongman for a long time. He mocks Dongman for seeking attention in the group chat after the previous night. A man who usually spits venom suddenly started praising people. To Jung-se, that is the desperate flattery of a failure trying to cling to success. successful people. Then Jung-se makes it clear, either Dongman leaves or he will. Dongman walks in, still acting careless, with no idea he has just been discussed. He starts teasing Jung-se again. Jung-se's anger explodes, and he almost tries to teach Dongman a lesson, but the others stop him. Outside, Jung-se keeps complaining through gritted teeth. Inside, Dongman eats as if nothing happened. Sitting across from him is Ko Hae-jin, Jung-se's wife and the owner of the restaurant. She patiently listens to Dongman's wild complaints and admits part of what he says is true. Movies should give audiences emotional energy, but when Dongman vents, he forces his negative emotions onto everyone around him. People feel exhausted just looking at him. Hae-jin becomes the first person to formally expel Dongman. She says it kindly, even holding his hand as she walks him to the door. Because her attitude is so gentle, Dongman thinks it might be a joke. Then he sees the sign on the door. Hwang Dongman is banned from entering. Only then does he understand that she is serious. At Choi Film, Una is not doing well either. Choi Dong-hyun scolds her in front of everyone. The pressure becomes so heavy that her nose starts bleeding again. Ever since childhood, Una's nose bleeds whenever she feels isolated and helpless. Back then, it came with despair. Now it also carries a self-destructive impulse. That is why she understands Dongman. Both of them face the same pressure and emotions, but they survive in opposite ways. Una swallows everything in silence. Dongman uses his poisonous tongue to prove he still exists. He is terrified of being completely ignored. Una understands that feeling, and so does Dongman's brother, Hwang Jinman. When Jinman sees the restaurant sign banning Dongman, he walks inside. Several 8 club members are drinking and chatting. Jinman downs a glass and opens the floodgates. He may dislike his brother's behavior, but he still wants justice for him. Jung-se says adults have the right to cut off unnecessary relationships. Jinman fires back. Jung-se insists Dongman went too far. Otherwise, why would everyone reject him together? To Jung-se, Dongman is like a fly spreading negativity everywhere. Jinman loses his temper and rushes forward, but the others hold him back. After he leaves, Hae-jin calmly adds another sign to the door. Hwang Dongman and his brother are both banned. Hae-jin does not argue or yell. She uses the softest method to make her stance clear, and that soft knife cuts deep. Dongman is hurt enough to hide at home. Jinman pulls open the curtain and tells him that anyone with even a little shame would leave this place. Dongman says he does not want to leave. Jinman asks what he is really trying to get by staying. Dongman, dazed and broken, finally speaks from the deepest place inside him. That answer silences Jinman. He had thought his brother was acting this way because he could not accept failure. Now he sees Dongman's true wound. Jinman leaves after giving him a serious reminder. News of Jinman's angry visit spreads quickly through the film circle. Everyone admires Hae-jin's solution. With one piece of paper, she dealt with both Hwang brothers. When Una hears people laughing about it, she cannot help speaking up. Someone says they hate how Dongman uses complaints to hide his incompetence. Una catches the word incompetence immediately and asks them to explain what incompetence means. A female coworker gives an example, and Una counters her sharply. But Una's argument does not fully hold. She is mocked too. When she hears her coworker's performance results, her nose starts bleeding again. In their eyes, both humanity and incompetence are jokes, and Una is part of the joke too. Dongman has no idea Una has been humiliated on his behalf. He is eating happily with Lee Jun-hwan, one of the 8 club members and one of his few real friends. They talk about Una. Dongman says he does not blame her for criticizing his script. Choi's words were the ones that cut too deeply. Jun-hwan begins praising Una. She was once famous for sharp and elegant script notes. But now her peak has passed, and Choi no longer values her. Instead, he gives her a hard time. Because she has fallen from a high place, she can understand Dongman's struggle and humiliation more clearly. Jun-hwan sees things more fully than Dongman does. Dongman says he likes the current Una better because she is not as aggressive as before. Still, he wonders why she lost favor at the company. Jun-hwan explains, Una's situation is like Dongman's. Both are isolated. The difference is that Dongman is treated as incompetent, while Una is punished for being too strong. On the way home, Dongman happens to meet Una near the railroad crossing. For the first time, he sincerely asks for advice. What exactly is missing from his script? Yuna thinks carefully. She says his characters lack the power to make people feel shaken. His script has no force that comes from having loved something deeply. That sentence hits Dongman directly in the heart. What he does not know is that Una is answering from her own wound. Dongman is venomous and Una is sharp. They are more alike than either of them expected. The next day, Dongman marches into Choi Film and demands to see Choi Dong-hyun. Everyone prepares for trouble, but Dongman does not attack physically. Instead, he uses his poisonous tongue to tear apart Choi's hypocrisy. He strips away the shiny world Choi has built from empty humility and false superiority. Dongman's counterattack leaves no room for politeness. When he walks away, Una smiles for the first time. She knows Dongman has finally admitted his anger and inferiority, and admitting them is already a kind of strength. At the end of the episode, Una gives Dongman 2 boxes of side dishes. Both of their emotional watches light up green. From that moment, Una becomes the one small light left in Dongman's world. After receiving her attention, Dongman feels the world become beautiful for the first time in a long while. He even begins to look forward to things. At the Emotional Watch Center, he deliberately searches for Una's familiar figure. When he sees her wave at him, he brightens. After their checkup, they talk at a cafe. For the first time, Dongman lowers his guard and confesses the ugliest parts of his mind. When he sees a traffic accident, his heart races, not from fear, but from strange excitement. When he sees terrifying news, he feels stimulated. He says these things with a smile, but he is not bragging. He is exposing the warped corners of his mind. Una listens and laughs because she understands. She has felt similar things. When a person is pushed too hard, the subconscious begins to release dark impulses because there is nowhere else for the pressure to go. Una knows better than anyone what it feels like for the inner order of a person to collapse. Their talk does not fully heal them, but the realization that you are like this too lights something inside both of them. Una says the emotional watch cannot actually change feelings. Dongman answers in his own way, and that night they run down a slope together. This time, they are not running from anger or despair. They are laughing. Because Dongman feels so good, he deliberately enters Hae-jun's restaurant even though he was banned. When he sees Choi Dong-hyun there, he uses the opportunity to scold him again. This time, he is not only standing up for himself, he is taking revenge for Una. He even pushes a chair into Choi. Dongman returns home feeling freer than he has in years. He imagines having dinner with Una. His brother can only sigh helplessly at his wild mood. Meanwhile, Jung-se's movie opens as scheduled, but the premiere is arranged at midnight. Actress Jang Mi-ran forces a polite smile while giving greetings because she knows the theater has little confidence in the film. That is already painful, but the reviews are worse. When Jung-se goes home and reads them, every line cuts into his pride. The bad reviews hurt more than anything Dongman ever said. He goes up a mountain alone to clear his head. At his most fragile moment, Dongman, the emotional bomb, posts an extremely sharp review in the group chat. It is cruel, but it is accurate. It strikes the exact place where Jung-se is weakest and breaks the dignity he has been trying to preserve. Jung-se drags himself to the bar, where Park Young-soo is comforting him. Then Dongman appears, still careless and loud. Seeing Dongman eat and drink without a care makes Jung-se even angrier. He stacks all his humiliation from the reviews onto Dongman. What keeps Jung-se going is the thought of confronting him. Jung-se says Dongman has never experienced the suffering of actually making a movie, yet he casually mocks those who have. This time, Dongman is unusually quiet. Maybe he is in a good mood. Maybe he knows Jung-se is right. But on the way home, he still mutters complaints. Then he opens the door and sees the most terrifying scene of his life. His brother is standing on a chair with a noose ready. Dongman returns just in time. He speaks softly and persuades Jinman to put it down. To comfort him, Dongman reads one of Jinman's old poems. The poem shows that Jinman also had talent when he was young, but for the family and for his brother, he gave up his dream and went to work. His brother's collapse is now understandable. Dongman's pain explodes outward, but Yuna's pain stays quiet and internal. When Yuna's ex-boyfriend, Ma Jae-young, tries to take full ownership of a script they once worked on together, her face remains cold. But looking at his shameless expression, her nose starts bleeding again. They once shared good memories, but now she sees that he only used her talent. She lays out her conditions and walks away in silence. She can only blame herself for trusting the wrong person. Dongman still has people who can comfort him, like Jun-hwan and Young-soo. At dinner, Jung-se advises Dongman to stop sprinkling salt on Jung-se's wound. That sentence immediately opens Dongman's mouth. He says he can be relaxed and cheerful with Una because Una treats him well. He wants to get along with people too, but that becomes possible only when other people treat him like a person. Jung-se drinks in silence. He realizes Dongman has always felt anxious around them, but no one cared. They pushed him to the edge and treated him as a nuisance until he became like a trapped animal. On the way home, Dongman reflects on what he must do to stop being disliked. The only person who gives him peace is Una. But he does not know Una has been taken to the hospital by her grandmother because her nosebleed will not stop. Her grandmother comforts her, and Una remembers Dongman's strange advice. If she feels depressed, she should go outside and pick up a 500 won coin. Only when she thinks of Dongman does she smile. The pain caused by stress seems to fade. Her watch shows the same feeling Dongman has, comfort. That night, Dongman sees Una again on his way home. She is standing in front of a giant movie poster for My Mother. Before Dongman can greet her, a car rushes toward the area and crashes into another vehicle exactly where Una had been standing. Dongman stumbles and crawls toward her in panic. When he sees that Una is only crouching in fear and not hurt, he finally breathes. Then his emotional watch starts beeping. When he sees the display, he is stunned. Dongman always thought he had destructive impulses, but now the watch shows that he is normal. Before, he felt excitement at disaster because he had no one he truly cared about. In this moment, he realizes he is not broken the way he feared. He is moved to tears and quietly celebrates himself. Una watches him with deep tenderness. This accident lets both of them see their true hearts. There is no hug and no kiss, but the scene feels more romantic than any obvious love scene. Being cared for feels wonderful. Dongman sleeps peacefully that night, and the next morning he wakes with energy he has not felt in a long time. At the Emotional Watch Center, he deliberately waits downstairs for Una. On the way back, they discuss that strange emotion the watch detected. Una calls it self-destruction. Dongman listens, trying to understand himself through her words. At the same time, Hae-young continues threatening Una over the script. Dongman also faces a threat at home. The woman in his neighborhood, whose daughter is getting married, asks whether he can bring a celebrity guest to support the wedding. He once bragged that he knew many famous people, but now he has offended almost everyone, including the 8 Club. The more Dongman thinks about it, the more frustrated he becomes. Then he accidentally drops his script. While picking it up, he sees something Una wrote in the margins, "Ma-jae-young, you bastard." He realizes that when Una was reviewing his script, Ma-jae-young had been harassing her. She could only curse him silently on the page. Dongman looks up Ma-jae-young's recent script and discovers that many lines and ideas come from Una. They are things she once said to Dongman. The more he thinks about it, the angrier he becomes. He meets Ma-jae-young and insults him on Una's behalf, tearing him apart with words. But Ma-jae-young only needs one sentence to crush Dongman. Dongman has spent 20 years without a released work. Dongman falls into depression again. Then Una texts him. They chat casually, message by message, and both their watches light up green. They have become each other's comfort. Dongman calms down, but Jung-se remains unstable. He calls Park Young-soo late at night. Young-soo is trying to sleep, but Jung-se starts talking to himself and accidentally reveals a huge secret. Jung-se's first successful movie was inspired by Dongman's real experience. After becoming successful, Jung-se carried guilt. He feared Dongman might accuse him of stealing. Because of that guilt, he gradually became unable to face Dongman. Over time, guilt turned into dislike. Young-soo is not asleep at all. He knows the truth more clearly than Jung-se expects. Dongman never realized that his own life was already interesting. Instead, he kept forcing himself to write other things. The next day, the 7 remaining members of the 8 Club gather. Young-soo asks them a painful question. Which one of them has never written about Dongman? Everyone lowers their head. They finally realize that much of their success was built from Dongman as background material. Una is also present at this gathering. When the group wants to invite Dongman Dongman back, Una votes against it. Unfortunately, Dongman is not there to hear their confession, but Hae-jin directly calls him. The call catches Dongman off guard. After hesitating for a long time, he says he is still carrying a one-sided love. Hae-jin smiles and tears off the sign banning Dongman and his brother from the restaurant. The next day, Dongman reluctantly attends the neighborhood wedding. He has failed to invite even one celebrity. Just as he prepares to be scolded, the wedding hall doors slowly open. Jang Mi-ran has come to support him. Dongman's expression shifts from shock to pure emotion. For the first time, he feels like he can be someone with face and dignity. After being pulled out of the valley by Yuna's words, Dongman begins facing love. For the first time in 40 years, he understands that heart fluttering is not just an adjective, it is an action. It moves him. When he writes, richer and more delicate lines flow from his pen. Love gives him a new source of life. Yuna also changes. She is no longer only the silent punching bag at work. The two influence each other without even noticing. Their longing for each other grows stronger. One day, Una wants to bring Dongman some side dishes made by her grandmother. Dongman rushes home after work, imagining a warm dinner for two. But when he opens the door, his brother is home too. The romantic dinner is ruined, and worse, Una has already arrived and seen how messy his home is. The meal becomes painfully awkward. Both watches turn red. Jinman thinks they are wearing couple watches. Dongman and Una become so nervous they do not know what to say. Then Jinman asks Una a dangerous question about her dream. If she says she wants to become successful, it sounds ordinary and unrealistic. If she gives a practical answer, it may sound small. Before Dongman can help, Una answers. She says she wants the people around her to feel safe. Her answer is grounded and deeply moving. The brothers fall silent. Inside, both are shaken. For the first time, Jinman gives Una one of his poetry books. Her name is written inside. It is both a gift and an acceptance. As Dongman's older brother, Jinman has done what he can. The rest depends on Dongman. At the restaurant, the 8 Club finally gathers again. Jung-se tells everyone to be a loving family, but Jung-se and Dongman sit with their backs to each other. They look like enemies now, but they were once close friends. Jung-se tells stories from their past, and everyone laughs. The mood slowly becomes lighter. Jung-se tells them to write as much as they can while they are still young. When they get old, inspiration will not come as easily. Dongman says they need to solve the root problem, and for him, the root is love. Now he is full of ideas. He even forgets coffee he has already brewed. He feels as if he has reached the level of Beethoven. Then he says Young-se and he are no longer the same kind of creator. The sentence is clearly provocative, and it hits Kyung-se again. Everyone expects Kyung-se to explode, but he simply bites into watermelon. The anger between them has cooled. What remains is a competition of creative ability. Dongman's life seems to be rising, but Una's heart still carries a deep shadow. To her, mother is almost a foreign word. She thought she and her mother would always stay out of each other's lives, but recently the old story of their estrangement keeps being brought up. The public wants to know why famous actress Oh Jung-hee distanced herself from her biological daughter. Jung-hee has tried to contact Una, but Una hangs up. Her assistant worries that explaining this scandal before an award ceremony might hurt box office numbers. Jung-hee cuts her off. If reporters want to watch her fall from the altar, she will let them watch. The next day, after teaching a class, Dongman feels sunshine as something beautiful for the first time. Yuna has made his world warmer and more colorful. Then the thing he fears most happens. He returns home and senses something wrong. He rushes to the bathroom and sees Jinman hanging there, struggling. Dongman is almost speechless with terror. He grabs his brother's legs with all his strength, terrified of losing him forever. Standing on a plastic bucket, he pulls down on the vent until both brothers crash to the floor. Jinman is not breathing at first. Dongman cuts the rope with a knife. Finally, Jinman coughs and gasps. Dongman collapses in relief. The first time Jinman tried to die, Dongman felt anger and regret. This time, he feels pressure and responsibility. Something inside tells him that it is time to carry the family. He does not sleep that night. At dawn, when Jinman gets up, Dongman worries he may try again. Jinman had thought dying might free him. Now that Dongman has Yuna, Jinman feels he can let go. But can he really? At the restaurant, Jang Mi-ran complains to Choi Dong-hyun. When she notices Una nearby, she realizes Una is a producer at Choi Film. Mi-ran says Una is pretty enough to be an actress instead. Then she comments on Jun-hwan's script, saying it is a little weak and that he should not keep defining her as the actress who once sawed off an arm. Una speaks up. She says Mi-ran is always trying to act mature, but that kind of forced sophistication only makes her look ridiculous. Una suggests that Mi-ran should use her own natural strengths on camera. In that sense, Jun-hwan's script suits her very well. Una's words are sharp enough to make Mi-ran storm out. In the car, Mi-ran gets angrier the more she thinks about it and calls back. Everyone expects the deal to collapse. Instead, Mi-ran agrees to take Jun-hwan's script, but Mi-ran's assistant does not let Una go easily. She mentions that Oh Jung-hui is looking for her biological daughter. At the same time, Dongman is searching for his niece. He knows Jinman's despair comes partly from losing his reason to live. If they can find Jinman's daughter, maybe Jinman will not feel so empty. But after Jinman divorced his wife, the ex-wife disappeared and sent their daughter to be raised by someone else. Even the child center does not know where she is now. Dongman leaves disappointed. Still, he is no longer the same bitter man. When he sees Jung-se, he can communicate normally. He also leaves a small gift outside Una's door, hoping she can always be happy. But Una is not happy. She is on the phone with her mother, Oh Jung-hee. Maybe out of guilt, Jung-hee wants to help Una fulfill a wish, but Una's nose starts bleeding. She angrily confronts Jung-hee for abandoning her husband and child. If her mother had not made that choice, how would Una have become the child left behind? How would she have carried all that pressure alone from the age of 9? Jung-hui did not want her then. Now Una does not want to recognize Jung-hui as her mother. She hangs up. Jung-hui is hurt, but she still has to walk the red carpet. That night, she wins Best Actress. Her acceptance speech is moving, and the room applauds. She receives the trophy with humility, but only she knows that what looks like modesty is actually self-blame. The next day, Dongman returns to the emotional watch center. The staff member notices 2 unknown emotion prompts in his watch data and asks what he felt at those moments. With guidance, Dongman realizes both times were connected to Jinman's suicide attempts. Dongman cries as he explains. He also learns that Una is another person who has unknown emotional prompts, and hers appear even more often. At the same time, Una is also being checked. When she learns that Dongman's distress is similar to her self-destructive feeling, she becomes deeply emotional. When they meet at the center, neither speaks. They walk silently for a long time. Then Una breaks down and rushes into Dongman's arms. Dongman holds her tightly. 2 people who have walked through darkness for too long finally let their shadows touch. Dongman and Una's relationship deepens. But just as their feelings begin to grow steadily, actress Jang Mi-ran suddenly steps into the middle. The weather is cold, but Dongman feels warm inside. All he can think about is Una. He is grateful for her, and Una is grateful for him too. She believes no one appears in a person's life by accident. After work, they meet. Dongman has finished revising his script, and Una's advice has helped him greatly. He cannot stop praising her. He says Una is different from other producers. Other producers love long lectures, but every note Una gives is precise and meaningful. Una smiles and says the inspiration came from Dongman himself. He was too close to the work to see it clearly. She only woke him up. As they walk, they see a small swirl of wind carrying leaves. Una likes the wind in every season. She steps into the swirl and spins with it. Dongman calls her the goddess of wind and records the happy moment on his phone. He does not notice Jung-hee's assistant watching from a distance. After Dongman goes home, he watches the video of Una and suddenly finds a purpose. Love and admiration make him want to become Una's protector. Meanwhile, Jung-se reluctantly interviews a writer named Park. Hae-jin found her to help him with his script, but Jung-se hates the idea of anyone touching his work. He treats writer Park coldly, but she does not get angry. Instead, she smiles brightly. Jung-se is confused. Does she not understand insults? Then writer Park speaks, and something in Jung-se's heart suddenly bursts. Maybe her laughter is infectious. Maybe he has not heard sincere praise in too long. Either way, Jung-se is instantly drawn to her. After the interview, he keeps replaying the moment. Then Hae-jin appears. Seeing her expressionless face after that warm smile makes him feel empty. Hae-jin asks about the interview. Jung-se says they will use writer Park. Hae-jin is surprised because he had argued against hiring help before, but she does not think too deeply about it. As long as Jung-se listens, that is enough. Later, members of the 8 Club gather at the restaurant. Young-soo complains that he has hit a creative wall. He has a reputation, but outsiders do not know he may have already run out of talent. Choi Dong-hyun comes out of a VIP room to make a phone call, and Dongman learns that Oh Jong-hee is inside. He sneaks in. Someone like Dongman is too small for Jong-hee to care about at first, but after her assistant whispers something, she looks at him properly. Dongman first expresses admiration, then he talks endlessly about his embarrassing experiences on set. He also praises Jung-hee's dedication from years ago. He wants to leave a strong impression, but one sentence from the assistant is enough to make Jung-hee pay attention. Dongman is Yuna's boyfriend. Jung-hee is not satisfied with him because he has no released work, but she politely encourages him. That is exactly where Dongman feels most insecure. He has given his script to Yuna and is still waiting for her reply. The longer he waits, the more anxious he becomes. Without realizing it, he drinks too much. When Yuna arrives, Jong-hee is leaving. Mother and daughter meet unexpectedly after many years. Neither dares to acknowledge the other. They pass each other calmly, but both are shaken inside. Yuna sits down, still distracted. Dongman is already panicking across from her. His legs keep shaking until he finally cannot hold back anymore. He blurts out his anxiety and even slaps himself a few times. Yuna is stunned. Then she tells him she cried while reading his script. She came to give him a loving hug. Dongman is overwhelmed. But before they can hug, Jung-se, Miran, and the others walk in. Miran sees Dongman and immediately hugs him. Her enthusiasm infects everyone, and the others cheer and embrace too. After all, getting close to a star like Miran is not something they can do every day. This time, Dongman's presence gives them that chance. The 9 of them sit together, drink, and talk freely. The old grudges seem to fade. People share their own experiences and tell stories about others. Then a staff member asks Miran a question. Miran honestly says it felt terrible. Una did not expect Miran's answer to match her own thoughts so perfectly, and she cannot stop smiling. Everyone is drunk, but they decide to move somewhere else and keep drinking. Because one staff member did not drink, she becomes the driver. They drive to the seaside. The sea breeze clears the alcohol from them. The beach, lighthouse, and waves give them a rare sense of relaxation. They dance, run, and laugh loudly. Young-soo, who had been unable to write, suddenly feels inspiration flowing again. But while everyone is having fun, the driver finally loses her temper. She says something too direct, and no one dares admit it. Then Miran raises her hand. Everyone is shocked. Only Dongman is looking at Yuna. When Miran moves closer to Dongman, his emotional watch beeps and displays the word awkward. Miran feels embarrassed and demands an explanation. Dongman nervously says this sudden love triangle is too much for him. The 8 club members are stunned. Since when did Dongman become so desirable? On the ride back, everyone secretly messages each other, making Miran furious. She tells them to stop using their phones. Then she questions Yuna directly. Miran has inserted herself into the situation and still acts as if she is the wronged one. When the driver turns too fast, the car nearly hits the guardrail. She slams the brakes, and the car spins several times before stopping near the cliff. The sudden scare gives their wild night a dangerous but harmless ending. The next day, after work, Una is brought to Jong-hee's office by Jong-hee's assistant. Mother and daughter finally meet properly. Jong-hee gets straight to the point. She does not understand why Una is with Dongman. Una becomes angry and laughs bitterly. She asks her mother a question that leaves Jong-hee speechless. Jong-hee does not want the conversation to collapse, so she offers Una an apartment and a bank card. The condition is that Una leaves the people she is currently living with. Jong-hee does this because she thinks Una's living situation and social circle are embarrassing. She does not want people gossiping. Una rejects her. The conversation fails. The resentment Una has carried for so many years cannot be resolved with a few words, an apartment, and a card. Outside, snow begins to fall. Dongman is admiring the snow when he receives a message from Una. It contains only 2 words, "Save me." Dongman calls her immediately, but she does not answer. Did something happen to Una? Can Dongman find her? His script, A Twisted Road, still has no path forward. But now, Una's message makes him risk everything. He rushes out desperately, but Una is actually safe. Dongman is the one who gets into a car accident and ends up buried in the snow. Even while freezing and shaking, he worries more about whether Una's nose is bleeding. Only after learning she is fine does he hang up and call emergency services. Every minute before rescue arrives feels unbearable. By the time 119 reaches him, he has passed out. Fortunately, he is not seriously injured. After returning home, he eats wildly, trying to recover the part of his soul that was frightened away. The near-death experience fills him with thoughts, and he shares them in the 8 Club group chat. That night, he sends more than 300 messages. The next day, Jung-se sees the messages and complains as usual. Hae-jin cannot stand it. This is exactly why she looks down on Jung-se. He may be mediocre, but he should not mock someone who is suffering in the same way. Jung-se and Dongman are the same kind of person. Jung-se was simply luckier because Hae-jin supported him. But Jung-se does not understand that. Hae-jin gives her conclusion and leaves for work. At the company, she messages Choi Dong-hyun to ask whether the script she sent has passed review. Choi had not taken it seriously and simply gave it to Yuna. When Yuna reads it, she gives it extremely high praise. Choi immediately asks for the script back. During a break, Junhwan comes to ask Una why she withdrew from her own script. He cannot stand watching Choi use Una while also suppressing her. He knows Choi forced her out and wants to defend her. But Una says she is ready to endure. She is confident in herself. Choi reads the script and is shocked by its quality, not knowing the real writer is Una. The script is one Una and her ex-boyfriend Ma Jae-young created together. After Dongman pressured Ma finally agreed to add Una's name, and Una used a pen name. Choi happily calls Hae-jin and says the script passed. He has even found the actors. Hae-jin is delighted, but she remembers Dongman and Ma Jae-young hate each other. She messages Junhwan, telling him not to let Dongman come to the restaurant tonight. Unfortunately, she is too excited and sends the message to the 8 Club group chat. She deletes it quickly, but Dongman has already seen it. He deflates like an eggplant beaten by frost. Even while teaching, he has no energy. The 8 Club members, however, still care about him. Except for the busy couple, they come to treat Dongman to barbecue. Dongman says his stomach hurts. Young-su scolds him for being pathetic. Another member comforts him, saying there is nothing to envy. Even those who debuted have not all succeeded, and they are often criticized by audiences. But Dongman is still jealous. They at least have the chance to be criticized. He does not even have that. Dongman leaves early, then immediately rushes into the restaurant. Inside, he sees Ma Jae-young talking with a top star about the script. Hae-jin warns him not to make trouble. Dongman knows she is caught in the middle. She dislikes Ma, but she does not want to miss a good script. What Hae-jin does not know is that Una deserves the credit. Dongman does not expose the truth, but when he sees Una, he still loses his temper. Una's nose starts bleeding again. Dongman immediately regrets going too far. He follows her and apologizes. Una explains her situation, and Dongman feels worse the more he listens. She is already the victim of being used, yet he hurt her too. It is their first real fight. Both return home in low spirits. In the end, Una calls first and asks Dongman to tell her a joke. Dongman's eyes fill with tears. He knows she has forgiven him. At Choi Film, Choi Dong-hyun tries to convince Hae-jin to work directly with him. Hae-jin refuses because she does not want to offend the film association. If she does, she may lose access to government support in the future. Ma Jae-young's script is being developed with government support, and Hae-jin is only a middle person. Choi now sees the script's potential and wants to bypass the original structure. Hae-jin has her own principles. She will not betray a process just for money, but some people will do anything for money. Ma Jae-young bypasses Hae-jin and agrees to work with Choi directly. When When Hae-jin finds out, she only smiles and tells Choi her answer. Back home, Hae-jin dances to release the frustration of making someone else's wedding dress. After a few drinks, she remembers the first time she read Young-se's script. Back then, Young-se's writing made her smile without realizing it. Where did that Young-se go? Watching her drunk, Young-se feels deeply guilty. Choi, on the other hand, feels no guilt at all. He greedily asks Yuna about the script. Yuna tells him the weather poem was written by Dongmun and explains that after revisions, the script improved dramatically. Choi refuses to believe her. He assumes Yuna is making decisions based on personal feelings, scolds her, then later mocks Dongmun outside the restaurant. Dongmun does not miss the opportunity. He attacks Choi with his usual poisonous tongue. But while Dongmun is tearing into Choi, his older brother Jinmin appears. Dongmun immediately shuts up. Jung-se, who is watching nearby, instinctively steps back, afraid Jinmin will fight again. But Jinmin simply asks who wants Napa cabbage. It turns out he has been harvesting cabbage out of town and brought back a truckload for everyone. For once, Dongmun does not get beaten. The 8 Club gathers. Dongmun quickly returns to his old habit of criticizing this and complaining about that. Hae-jin finally slams the table. Dongman thinks he is about to be kicked out again and clings to his chair. Instead, Hae-jin says something that stuns him. He has never stepped into the ring. He has never been beaten in a real fight. So what right does he have to keep giving instructions from the sidelines? Then she calls the film association. Everyone listens in disbelief. Dongman is more shocked than anyone. Ma Jae-young has given up the government support funding for the film, and because Dongman's script ranked second, Dongman now receives the opportunity. Hae-jin has pushed Dongman into the ring. At the association office, Dongman is still sweating with fear. By coincidence, he runs into Ma Jae-young again. Hae-jin throws out a harsh line on Dongman's behalf. Dongman feels like he is dreaming until he signs the funding contract. His dream has come true, but joy is not the only thing it brings. Signing means that even if knives fall from the sky, he must finish this movie. The first person he calls after leaving the office is Una. The 8 Club prepares a feast to celebrate. As seniors, they give Dongman advice. Being a director looks glamorous to outsiders, but only those who have made films know how hard it is to command 200 people on set. Before Dongman can even experience the hardships of the set, his first obstacle arrives. The loan shark finds him. Dongman once borrowed 1.7 million won online to save his injured cat. Over time, he has already repaid more than 5 million won, but the loan shark claims the debt is still not cleared. Now they demand 11 million won at once, with interest increasing every day. The film support money will not arrive for at least 10 days. Dongman nearly collapses under the pressure. He tells Una about it. Una does not blame him. She simply puts her sweater over his head gently. When there is even one person in the world who supports you unconditionally, you can become surprisingly strong. Una is fragile herself, but she can still support someone else. Her own situation is bad too. Hae-jin runs into Choi again, and Choi tries to attack Dongman by saying Una once criticized his script harshly. Hae-jin fires back that with Una's help, Dongman's script has completely transformed and is now excellent. Choi loses the argument with Hae-jin and dumps all his anger on Una. He accuses her of betraying the company and attacks her talent, not knowing that the script he is investing in was written by her. Una silently swallows everything. Unlike her, actress Jang Mi-ran grew up surrounded by love, so she cannot tolerate even a small amount of grievance. Mi-ran once acted in a romantic comedy with a male actor. During filming, the actor flirted with her and sent ambiguous messages. Mi-ran fell for him, and their chemistry on set became unusually good. But once filming ended, the actor's attitude changed completely. At a promotion event, he kept his distance from Mi-ran. When reporters asked about their rumor, he acted like a devoted boyfriend and said he had been in a stable relationship for 7 years. Mi-ran looks calm on the outside, but inside she is furious and heartbroken. After work, she drags Una out to drink. At the bar, strangers recognize her and mock her poor acting. Mi-ran explodes and curses at them until Una pulls her away. The two sit by the empty Han River and drink together. Miran admits her acting is bad. She is a pure, experience-based actress. Every time she says, "I love you," she truly means it. She cannot understand how a man can change so quickly. She refuses to believe the actor never liked her even for a moment. The next day, she runs straight to his house in full special effects makeup. The actor is shocked. Miran demands he tell her whether he liked her at least once. She cannot believe all that tenderness was acting because, in her words, his acting is not that good. His girlfriend hears the argument and explodes. Miran is brought back, but the news reaches Jung-he. The actors team asks Jung-he to control Miran. If Miran keeps harassing him, they will call the police. Jung-he can only give Miran advice from experience. Miran is still too young. She cannot separate work from feelings, and she cannot stop herself from caring. Maybe she is not suited to being an actress. Meanwhile, the loan shark calls Dongman again. Dongman expects himself to feel fear, but his watch shows annoyance. He cannot control his sarcasm and insults the loan shark from head to toe, saying their threats are so outdated that it is no wonder modern gangster movies are boring. The loan shark is furious and prepares to come find him. Dongman hangs up and immediately realizes he is in trouble. He grabs his things and runs from home. The loan shark does not find Dongman, but runs into Jinman instead and gets badly beaten. In revenge, the loan shark sends Dongman's debt message to everyone in his contacts. Dongman thinks Yuna will be disappointed when she learns about the debt, but Yuna does not blame him. She only asks what happened. When she learns he borrowed money to save a cat, she says she was right to like him. With Yuna's support, Dongman finds courage. He confronts the loan shark directly. Since the man has already exposed his debt to everyone, there is nothing left to threaten him with, and Dongman has already paid far more than the original principal. The loan shark is shaken, and the matter finally calms down. As Miran spends more time eating with the group, she grows closer to them. One day, everyone gathers at Dongman's home. Miran mentions Jung-he's biological daughter. All she knows is the daughter's name because Jung-he never allows anyone at home to mention that child. Hearing this, Una's eyes darken for a moment. The life they have now is happier than anything they had before, but the things they lost have still left marks. Jinman pours cold water on Dongman's joy. Dongman cannot understand why, after suffering for so many years, he cannot finally be happy. Jung-se also cannot stand seeing Dongman happy and starts making sarcastic comments. Hae-jin is not pleased with that. Then Jung-hui suddenly appears at Una's company. She wants to take over Ma Jae-young's script and change the lead character from male to female because the lines clearly carry a woman's voice. Hearing Una's lines spoken aloud, Ma Jae-young sits awkwardly. Everyone in the room understands. The script is good, but it was not truly written by Ma. It was written by a female writer. Naturally, the lead should also be female. An actress of Jung-hui's level being willing to lead a rookie writer's project should be a blessing. But the script had already been offered to another top actor, No Kang-sik. Dongman wants No Kang-sik to star in his movie too, but No humiliates him and tells him to get lost. Dongman makes a scene because he never hides his ambition. On another side, Jung-hui privately invites Una to meet. She directly exposes that Una is the real writer behind Ma's script. To Jung-hui, Una hiding behind a pen name is hypocrisy. She tells Una to use her real name. If the abandoned daughter writes the script and the famous mother stars in it, the public interest will be enormous. It would be a win-win. Jung-hui believes Una has been waiting for exactly this chance. But Una feels deeply insulted. She never wanted some hidden victory game. Maybe all she wanted was love. Those who want love too badly often make mistakes. Miran runs into the male actor's girlfriend again. The girlfriend deliberately mocks her, and Miran gets into a hair-pulling fight. Meanwhile, Hae-jin discovers that Jung-se may be emotionally cheating with writer Park, but she quietly tolerates it. When writer Park looks at Jung-se with shining hope, saying she wants him to become someone great, Hae-jin sees through her immediately. Writer Park's face changes when her feelings are exposed. Hae-jin remains calm. She is not only a wife, she is also a production company CEO. This emotional affair has given Jung-se a new creative peak, so Hae-jin does not rush to stop it. Choi decides to abandon No Kang-sik after securing Jung-hee, and No happens to run into Dongman while angry. Dongman speaks wildly again, but his reckless, stubborn certainty gives No a strange idea. No decides to work with this unusual director. Just like that, they sign a contract. Jinman watches Dongman's life improving and begins to fear he will become a burden. But Dongman is not the type to forget family once life gets better. He refuses to move out and refuses to abandon his brother. In his lowest point, Una stayed beside him. Now that he is about to rise, he still looks at Una with admiration. That love deeply heals her. Too many people attack Una in this world. Even after Choi learns she is the real writer, he still tries to take away her credit. He offers her an exclusive writer contract and a high payment if she quietly gives up her name. But money is not what Una wants. Then Choi hears about Miran's scandal. Although it has not exploded yet, he wants to pause the deal with Jung-he to avoid risk. He throws all the blame onto Una, telling Jung-he the writer does not want to change the lead character's gender. Jung-he finds Una again. She knows this script contains Una's hatred toward her. She says she is willing to read Una's words like scripture. Is that not the punishment Una wanted most? Let the mother she hates perform the script built from that hatred. Their argument shocks Dongman, who finally realizes Una is Jung-he's abandoned daughter. Mother and daughter argue fiercely and part badly again. Their conflict is not easy to resolve. Una is too proud. She does not love money and refuses to be moved by fame. That makes her stubborn. Her mother loves money, ambition, and status. That makes her stubborn too. But how many people can stay clear-headed when fame and fortune are right in front of them? Since falling for writer Park, Jung-se has written the best script of his life. The TV station even wants to extend his series to a third season. Hae-jin remains quiet until one day she asks Jung-se to go out with her. Jung-se makes an excuse and goes to a restaurant alone. There, Hae-jin sees him laughing and talking with writer Park. Jung-se notices Hae-jin too late. Hae-jin's emotions have dropped to the bottom. She exposes the emotional affair, and Jung-se has to admit he has fallen for writer Park. He says it happened because Hae-jin no longer looks at him with love. Middle-aged men always seem to have endless reasons for betrayal. Dongman, who is still unmarried, is at least still charging forward for love. When he hears Ma Jae-young has gone to Yuna again and yelled at her for affecting casting, Dongman immediately fights him. They even come to blows, and Dongman loses a tooth. But he drives Ma away. Happy despite the injury, Dongman knocks on Yuna's window. He does not tell her why he got hurt. He only acts like a clown to make her laugh. Yuna laughs and, for the first time, tells him about her childhood. She says she feels trapped there and cannot stop using that past to attack herself. Dongman asks how she could possibly avoid mentioning her past. Is she not being too harsh on herself? Yuna says Dongman never talks about his own past. So Dongman finally opens up. His family was once happy and wealthy because his parents ran a successful business. But in his second year of college, his father's business failed, the family went bankrupt, and his parents died. His life collapsed overnight. All that remained were old pieces of furniture stored in a warehouse. Even now, they pay a large storage fee every year. Dongman always believed that only after life improved, only after he became rich again, could he finally let go of the past. By showing each other their wounds, Dongman and Yuna move closer. The next day, Dongman gets a removable fake tooth and sends the bill to Ma Jae-young. Ma angrily pays. Even after losing a tooth, Dongman keeps threatening him. If Ma bullies Yuna again, Dongman will not let him go. Meanwhile, Jung-se tries to save his family by firing writer Park. But Hae-jin formally tells him something painful. She understands how precious creative desire is for a creator. She does not want to bind him if that desire is what lets him write. For creators, morality can feel meaningless compared with producing good work. Their marriage seems to have reached its end. At the bar, the other 8 club members do not know about Jung-se and Hae-jin's situation. While Jung-se is absent, they talk about him behind his back. Dongman even says that if Hae-jin had chosen him back then, he would not have done worse than Jung-se. The next second, Hae-jin walks in. Everyone freezes. Even more awkwardly, Jung-se is sitting silently in the corner too. There is nothing more embarrassing than being caught talking behind someone's back. Dongman still tries to act tough and keeps provoking Jung-se, stabbing at his weak points. Jung-se is already devastated by his marriage and his failure. In anger, he challenges Dongman to a duel. Dongman immediately runs away while still mocking him. He expects those cruel words to make him feel good, but when he checks his watch, it says regret. He realizes he has gone too far. He turns back and kneels in front of Jung-se. He has always wanted to stop saying hurtful things to his friends, but habits are hard to break. The two men cry together and finally reconcile. Elsewhere, Miran is required to apologize to the male actor's girlfriend. But Miran is arrogant by nature and not good at acting, so even her apology sounds insincere. The girlfriend insists on making the matter bigger. At the critical moment, Jung-hee arrives. With a mix of threats and persuasion, she forces the girlfriend to back down. The girlfriend is dissatisfied and attacks Jung-hee by mentioning her biological daughter. For the first time, Miran hears Jung-hee praise someone like that. She becomes curious. When Una later hears from Miran that her mother praised her, tears fall immediately. Miran is shocked and can only hold her friend quietly. Finally, Dongman's movie begins production. After release, it earns 10 million won at the box office and wins multiple awards. As a debut director, Dongman has fought a beautiful comeback battle. That's all for today's drama recap. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share. I'll see you in the next one.